Hey everybody, it's Milton Davis, and welcome to 11 Questions Live. And tonight I have a really fabulous interview. I'm going to be talking to none other than Zig Zag Claybourne, the author of The Brothers Jetstream and Afro Puffs Are the Antenna of the Universe, in addition to some other great books. So welcome, Zig Zag. How you doing, man?
Good. How you doing, brother?
Doing good, doing good. I mean, I've been really looking forward to this interview because I love your books.
Thank you,
And
sir.
they just and just to be able to talk about them and talk about you and your process is something that I've been looking forward to for a long time. It's technically 11 questions, but we'll just talk till the time runs out. Wait,
There
that's
we
not
go.
so I'm gonna go ahead and get started with the questions so we can let the people know what they need to know. So the first question I wanted to ask you was just kind of give us a brief path about your writing journey. What led you to where you are now as in your writing, I say your writing career?
I'm gonna go back a ways, just like most authors do, to Mama. You know, Mama used to take us to the library all the time when we was kids, and there's six of us. So that was like going to Toys R Us for us. We didn't have no money, so library was Toys R Us, and so I just learned to love books. And then once I actually, got to a point where I could, buy my little books, like little Archie comics and my Spider-Mans and stuff, I was hooked. Like I love the word. So that was it.
It's funny how that is really the path of most writers.
Mm-hmm.
Writers are readers. You know,
Yeah.
and that's where it comes from. We grew up with the bookmobile stopping at our corner.
Yes.
And that was a religious thing. We wouldn't have bookmobile all the time, bringing books out,
Mm-hmm.
bringing books back in. That seems
I
to be
used to
like the
like the bookmobile
foundation.
more than I like the swimmobile.
I know that's right. So that being said, that you're a reader, you read a lot coming up. Do you have any particular literary influences? People that you would look at that would probably inspired you or gave you an ideal of how you wanted to write?
Oh yeah. Number one is the Queen, Toni Morrison. When I started reading her in college and see what she was doing with words and psychology and everything, just blending that into her stories, I'm like, okay, I'm in the presence of a master. I need to study her and see what she's doing. So she was number one. Then sci-fi wise, it was like, you know, Harlan Ellison, and I was deep into uh, Roy Asimov coming up, all those so-called classic dudes. But
Mm-hmm.
then, after later than that, it was Octavia. Then I grabbed me some Tanana Reeve Dew, and I think right now I'm loving and being influenced by a lot of the younger writers, like my boy Brandon O'Brien, and it's just hip to this one sister named Tatiana Obey, Obey. She does these fantasy books that are really fun, and it's two of them out right now. So I'm hoping she does a third one. But I'm loving what I'm seeing, what these young folks are doing, and they are teaching me stuff still as I go on this journey.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing up the names of these authors too, because a lot of times we don't get to hear the famous authors or the authors that we like, or the favorite authors that is, and to know about, especially about the new authors, because I mean, to know about them and know what they're doing and how they continue to influence you, even though you are at a level of yourself where you're influencing people. You know, my first book that I read by, I got it right here.
Oh,
I got the brothers right here. And I mean, I remember seeing you online and seeing the book and the title of it, The Brothers Jetstream. And I was like, what is this about? Because it was kind of hitting me a different way. And so I had to get the book and I started reading it. And man, I was like, oh my God, this is this is one of the wildest books I've ever read in a long time, and I was just like, it was just, you know, I'm not trying to talk about authors in general or about how we write, but normally when you come to certain books, you kind of know from the premise that these stories are going to go a certain way.
right.
And there's going to be changes, there's going to be unexpected things that happen. But if you're reading a fantasy novel or if you're reading and people set up their scenario, you kind of have an idea of what to expect. There's some certain their foundation there. But I'm reading the Brothers Jetstream and I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm reading this book and I'm like, everything is like a surprise, everything is a change, and it was just like, and I just couldn't. I mean, I'm laughing, and I'm like, man, this is just like a wow book, you know. And
See,
and I know you've heard you've had the comparison, the buck of Buckaroo Banzai, that type of thing, and
yeah.
kind of like that meets Parliament Funkadelic. It's just so much stuff that was going on in this book, and I mean, and my thing is like, how did you come up with the idea for this book? Where did the Brothers Jetstream come from?
Well, the first inception of it was back in college. I mean, this book started back when I was in my 20s. And so actually, no, I was earlier than that because let's say 21. I'm in college in the library, and there's like this group of white kids doing Dungeons and Dragons kind of stuff. But as I approached them, they shut down. It got super quiet. And I'm like, okay, what y'all doing over there? That's so that I can't. And so I started imagining they was part of this big cabal and they were trying to keep folks out. And that's when I came up with the character in Milo Jetstream. But I never did nothing with him for that whole time. I just came up with this goofy name character to fit into this cabal of Dungeons and Dragons nerds. So you could like figure out what's going on. Fast forward to when I get a little bit older and grayer, I'm like, I want to do something with this character. So I sat down and I'm like, what is the most outlandish plot I could throw at them? What and basically, as a writer, we don't get to do that all the time. To do one of those, just throw the kitchen sink and everything else in. And I said, this book ain't gonna sell. I'm writing this for me. So I said, let me throw in everything I can possibly think of. And then once I do that, flip it on his head. So yeah, the reader doesn't necessarily know where we're going. But if you watched enough like Marvel movies now, or even Buckaroo Banzai, you kind of know what's going to happen. And so that's what I was playing with, that whole notion of flipping the tropes around and just letting the reader run around in the playground and have fun. Because it's too many writers can write a book where you don't know what's going on. And you end up like, why did I read this? I didn't want to do that. I wanted to write a book where you didn't necessarily know what was going to happen, but you knew something was coming. So you running with me to see what's going to happen. That's what I wanted to do. And I think I was successful with it.
Hey, you were very successful with it. I'm not going to say too much. I'm thinking of some things that are in the book right now, but I just don't want to give that away. But I will just say, like, the whale.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. The whale. and I'm reading this book, and the thing I like is I mean, you can learn, writing is a skill that can be learned. Style is something that you can't learn. Style is something that I feel like, that writers that's that part of them. That's the soul of their writing. You can learn a lot of technical stuff, but the soul of it is your style, how you tell that story, like storytellers. And your style is so unique because I mean it's very humorous. There's another book that you wrote, but I'm not going to mention the time that I can't even read that book because every time I start reading, I'm laughing so hard. I got to put this book down because
I don't know which one you talk about. Yeah.
And I'm like, so, but the thing at the same time that at 1 minute you'll say something that's funny and irreverent, and then at the next minute you'll say something that's really profound. And that's what I really liked about the book as well, because you're making statements that are relevant and deep statements, and it's all tied up into this almost fantastical type science fiction scenario and stuff. And I kind of want to ask you how you do that, but I mean, is that a fair question?
That's a fair question. Let's see if I can answer it without going on for 2 hours. Easiest way to answer that, how I do that is I respect the reader's intelligence. Because, a lot of people try to they say you can do humor or you can be dramatic, you can be serious. But life ain't that way, right? Life is 1 minute you laughing about something, next minute you crying about it, the same thing. So I wanted to get that into the books. It's like, the humor in those books isn't necessarily like joke humor. It is the humor of the situations. And we all run into these ridiculous situations where we think we're doing our best. and we wearing it on our chest. We like, getting our bumps going. And then somebody come along and with 2-3 little words, just deflate that whole thing. And you either laugh about it or you cry about it or you do both at the same time. And that's what I wanted to do with this book, with the heroes. It's like, that's why I taglined it, saving the universe one last damn time. Because the heroes are like, you know what, we doing this, and it don't end. Where is our like Star Wars moment where at the end we get to have the medals on and we got the band playing behind us with the like the coronation music. We don't, Black heroes don't get that.
Yeah, and now that I heard you explain it, I kind of, I see that's part of what makes the story resonate with me, is because you're right. I can think of situations in my life that were very serious, but at one particular moment there was something that was funny, and you knew you shouldn't be laughing, but but that's how life comes at you sometimes, and that's how it strikes you that time. And I guess that's part of the realness of this book, is that you get that when you're reading it.
And that's that realness was, I needed to have that in there from the first page on, because if without that realness, it would have just been a slapstick. So, and the way I got that weirdness, that realness, I went back to Mama. Because when you was a kid, you would get into trouble or something, and you trying to sit there serious, but at the same time, you think about how much fun it was getting in trouble, so you try not to laugh and smile while Mama is getting on you.
Yep.
I wanted to infuse some of that feeling in that book. Like, yeah, this is serious. I ain't supposed to be laughing right now, but I'm kind of anyway.
I know exactly what, and I mean, and the other thing, like always, when you read a book that's written by a Black author, the way you wrote this book, that you are handling your heroes in a way that is unrestricted. Is you're writing it, and this is pure storytelling without being concerned about who might be reading it or what somebody might think when they see this book, because it's not conforming to certain things that people want you to conform to. And that's another thing about this book, is this free roaming, and the names. I mean, the names. I mean, Bubba Foom. I'm like, I'm reading names, and that's the other thing that's got me rolling. Like, where is he getting these names from? It's like, is he just like throwing words up in the air, and whichever ones fall beside each other, that's what I'm going to name it?
No, I had a deep scientific process for that, man. Now, you know what? Growing up reading all these Marvel comics, they had these weird ass names all the time, and I just kind of dug back into that treasure trove. Like, okay, what can I? Like, Bubba Foom was kind of like Marvel. There's this big dragon named Fin Fang Foom. And so I like, all right, I want, like, the character is this southern lanky dude named Bubba. What can I add on to that? And I said, Bubba Foom. Bubba Foom.
But I mean, the whole book to me, and if you're watching this video and you have not read The Brothers Jetstream, please read this book. It's going to be an entirely different experience. I personally say that you can't consider yourself a fan of speculative fiction if you have not read this book, because it stands. I mean, it stands out unique. It's a unique book, and it's something that I feel like it'll be a unique experience for you to read it. That kind of thing. And also, which leads up to our second book, which is the one that has you have the poster behind you. Afro Puffs are the antenna of the universe. That title in itself tells you you're about to go somewhere that you've never been before.
Oh yeah.
And now, before we get into that book, though, why with this particular book, you did not take Milo and Ramses into this book? They off doing themselves. I guess them saying saving the earth, the world one last damn time was literally what they were doing. And after the first, they're like, okay, we out.
Yeah.
But you bring in a different set of characters, just as interesting. You bring in a different scenario, and I guess I can say you also bring a different message into this book too, as well.
Yeah.
So kind of give us the background of where this book came from, and give us like a brief scenario of what it's about.
With this one, Afro Puffs came about after I finished Jetstreams. I put in the back of it, coming soon, Afro Puffs are entering the universe. I never intended to write that book. That was just put in there as a joke. Because like at the end of Buckaroo Banzai, they had this, next adventure coming, and it never came.
Yeah.
So I thought Jet Streams was going to be a one and done. But then after a while, I'm like, but these characters like Desiree Keecho and Neon and Yvonne, they were in the first book. They were kind of like, I don't want to say they were background characters because they weren't, because they were throughout the whole Jetstream book with Milo and Ramses.
Mm-hmm.
But as I started thinking on more, like, I want to do another book in that universe, I said, okay, the first book was mainly the dudes, them having theirs. Second book is all the sisters. And once I had that in mind, everything else just flowed from it. Like, because Milo and his brother Ramses are out in space on this other adventure doing something. And while they're doing that, the ladies are taking care of business on Earth. And they wind up taking care of business in such a way that Milo and them cannot do. And I just wanted to run with that. It's like, because Black women basically rescue this world day in, day out.
True.
So,
True.
So I wanted to drill down into that. The first book was like Black folks saving the world all the time and never getting credit for it. But then I wanted to be more specific and say, okay, the second book, this is my sisters here. And the sisters are saving the world the way they know how to do, the only way nobody else can do. Let's put it that way.
And in this book also, you get that where you have a situation where it felt like everybody was kind of like supporting Milo and Ramses. And here in this book, you get more of a sense of camaraderie.
Yeah.
These are sisters that, they know each other.
Oh yeah, this is squad right here.
Yeah, and they joke with each other. They they get mad at each other and stuff like that. They have difference of opinions, but at the same time, they all in the end are friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're coming in with this story, and then you're coming in with the way that you write and with the names, which my favorite one was Hellbilly. When I see he didn't name this guy.
Yeah,
I had to stop and laugh for about 5 minutes when I got to that name.
And the Hellbilly is one of my favorite characters too.
And the thing about it is that because I saw that character, I knew exactly what that name meant. That was the thing about it and stuff, So, but yeah, that's that was I mean, again, but what would you say? I mean, I know you're also talking about the fact that this was about our sisters, about them showing them doing their thing and how they do their thing, what would you say that was there were a lot of profound statements in this book as well. I wish I had a copy with me, but that book is so good that all the copies of yours that I had, I sold. So, so to me, that's the best form of flattery for an author. That I don't have more books because everybody bought them. That kind of thing. And there was I wish I had it because there was one particular sentence that you put stated in there that I felt was really profound. And again, it's something that you see all the time to me when I'm reading your books, that you make observations about life and about situations that usually hit you when you don't expect them.
And that's the way they stick. That's how they stick.
So is there any other different meanings beyond the showing the sisterhood in this book that you are trying to show in Afro Puffs?
Yeah, because I have a saying that I came up with a few years: despite everything, create. And that's what I wanted to infuse this book with, because the whole thing is about construction rather than giving in to destruction, which we are surrounded these days by just messages of destruction. Everything is just falling apart, dumpster fire. And I wanted to put in this book, that's true. That's always been true. I mean, even when the first two cavemen walked around, it's like, okay, I'm getting ready to kill this saber-tooth tiger. But then all of a sudden, lightning strike me, I'm dead. And the other caveman like, dang, bro. So we ain't never had it easy as a species. And I want to put that in the books, like, no matter what, though, despite everything that goes on in our lives in the world, creating something keeps us going forward. And I don't want to give these spoilers away, but in the book, that's all the ladies are trying to do. They're just trying to basically create a home. And every time they try to do it, some trifling food gets in the way and they have to deal with them.
Yep. So we actually get through these questions pretty good. I'm surprised.
Okay.
We're being all professional here. So do you see another book in this series? Do you see like the brothers Jetstream returning? Do you see them, reuniting, with the sisters from Afro Puffs? Or what's your vision for this series right now?
There is going to be another book, definitely. And it's going to detail what the brothers were doing out in space. But me, even though those were two different instances, they out in space and Desiree and her crew are on Earth at the same time, I'm going to bridge them together. I don't know how I'm going to bridge them together, but I'm going to bridge it together so that they all in one. So that might be, give me a couple of years on that.
A couple of years?
Well, yeah, I'm working on the fantasy trilogy now.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
All right, then I guess I have to wait because I'm looking forward to
I ain't one of them brothers that's got everything, a crew working behind me or no AI. I gotta do it myself.
I know that's right. That's all of our challenge right now. So I'm gonna expand a little bit. 10 years ago, we did our first State of Black Science Fiction panel, where we talked about the state of Black science fiction. We talked about Black authors and about our representation in the science fiction and fantasy industry and different things like that. And we actually celebrated that at Georgia Tech in November of last year. So, and it looks like we're going to be doing this panel again in the near future. So I want to ask you, what do you think is the state of Black science fiction in 2023?
Number one, it is healthy and vibrant and unstoppable. Those three words right there come to mind immediately. Because of things that we do, and this is in the indie space and the traditional space, in the novel space, and the comic space. I mean, Brother Dedrin Sneed is blowing folks away with Sorghum and Spear for a reason, because it's the truth that he's putting in that comic. Yeah. Brandon O'Brien, the poetry that he's doing, the prose, he's putting the truth in it. So people are starting to wake up to the fact that Black speculative fiction, Black sci-fi, Black horror, all of that, yeah, it's not just entertaining, it's giving you truth, and that's something that we've been lacking in our entertainments and for a long time. We get the flash and dash, but once it's gone, we don't forget about it. And when it comes to Black sci-fi and stuff, you don't get to forget about it. You don't get to read the Slay anthology and forget them stories in there. And that was our sister Nicole Kurtz did that.
Yep.
So that's one thing. I don't care who you are in the industry. If you're saying that you're reading us and it's not interesting or it's forgettable, you're lying. Flat out, you're lying. You're telling me that, number one, you didn't understand what you read, which we know a lot of editors out there don't. And when it comes to Black fiction, a lot of readers, especially white readers, default to, I don't want to put no work in. And to them, work means, if I don't know what that word is, I'm chucking the whole thing. Whereas me and you, we can read a book and it's all kinds of references that we don't know, but we know the context and we flow with it. It don't put up a roadblock to us.
Yeah, I agree with you on all that. It is something. It's a situation that's here, not going anywhere. All it's going to do is grow and expand. And then when I expand, I mean, just around the world, hearing more voices. Now we're seeing more voices from the continent, from different countries in Africa.
Yes.
There's a strong strong sword and soul and steampunk movement going on in Brazil right now. So you're seeing all these different voices coming in, and they're bringing all their different flavors and the things that are specific to their culture, but at the same time, things that are universal throughout the African diaspora culture and stuff.
Yes,
it's really an exciting time. This is going to add an extra question since you talked about this a lot. Right now, and you've mentioned a couple of people already. Who are the readers, the writers that you're reading right now? Who are the people that are exciting you right now? You've mentioned a couple of them already, but I just wanted to see if you might have a few more that you haven't had a chance to talk about.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's our sister Cerise Rennie Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
So I read everything she puts out. There's this brother named Milton Davis who just put out this collection of short stories. I don't know if you know him.
I've heard of him. I've heard of him.
Yeah, put out this sweet collection of short stories. One of the best. You know what? Let me just be real with you. Muscadine Wine is one of the best collections I've read in a long, long time. I mean, I don't keep a lot of books on my permanent shelf. That's on my permanent shelf.
See how brother try to make you.
See, I'm telling you, I just keep it real with you, man.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I don't, me, don't talk before. I don't throw that out easily.
Yeah, it's a
But
lot of new authors coming out. It's just trying to get to them and read them.
that's the thing.
I'm glad you mentioned Sorghum and Spear, because I've got the anthology right now, and just by looking at the list of authors that are in there,
Yeah,
it's like it almost says I have to have this book because just of the authors that are in there. And then you start reading the stories and really see how Dedrin has fleshed out that whole world so far as creating a language. That
everything
itself,
about that. Yes.
it's something else, man. Okay, I got one more question. That's gonna actually be 12 questions. And this is an easy one for you.
Okay.
What should we expect from Zig Zag Claybourne in the future?
Ooh, dang, man, that's a good one. Expect the unexpected. That's what I'm gonna say. That's my motto for when I sit down to write. I try to surprise myself, because doing that means I'm giving the reader a gift too. If I'm just giving you what you done seen 20 times on the Marvel or read 20, I'm doing you a disservice. So expect something just gonna be a little bit unexpected. Like with this fantasy trilogy, y'all ain't ready for it. I'm gonna tell you right now, it is something.
Well, I'm looking forward to, because I've had a taste of all your writing and all your different genres that you play in. And it's a different voice in every one, but then there's a connection because of the style that you have. And they're all interesting, they're all humorous, they're all deep, even with your Idris your Idris stories.
Let's not get Idris beat me up again.
I mean, just you are. I mean, you're a fabulous author. I think everybody should be reading you, and I'm really happy to have the opportunity to interview you and talk a little bit about at least these two books. And I'm sure we're going to talk again about some more stuff in the future. But before we wrap this thing up, let everybody know where they can find you and where your stuff is, where your stuff is, so they can go out right now and pick it up.
All right. Everybody can find me at righton.com, and that's WRITE on, and then RIGHT on.com. Or hit Amazon, hit Barnes and Noble, hit your favorite local bookstore, look for Zig Zag Claybourne. I'm out there.
Okay, cool. Zig Zag, thank you for spending this time with us. Thank you for coming to 11 Questions and sharing your wit and your insight with us. And take care, man.
Appreciate you, man. Love it.
Everybody, thank you. This is another episode of 11 Questions Live. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you will continue to follow us on our YouTube channel. And there will be in the comments links to all of Zig Zag's connections, so you can get in contact with them, and not get in contact with them. We don't want to be, chasing them around, stuff like that. But find his books and everything like that. So y'all take care. Peace.